Hey guys, I want to welcome you back to another episode of Pistons Talk Podcast post-game show. If you are brand new here, this is your first time watching a post-game show. What we do is we go over quarter notes, uh, go over the box score a little bit, and then I open up the show to questions, comments, kind of like an open forum. So if you guys have any comments with tonight's game against the Milwaukee Bucks and you are watching live on YouTube, definitely drop a comment in the comment section. If you are an audio listener and you've never been on one of these live post-game shows, I encourage you to do so, but no pressure. If you just like listen to the podcast on the audio side, that is completely fine. But let's get into today's show. I just hit myself in the face with my mic. I got it a little bit too close. I got to get in a better habit of not having my mic so close to my damn face. But I think it's my setup right now. I need a new desk so my mic is not so damn close to me. But no Duncan. That is back-to-back games. He's been out with a sprained ankle. He sprained it against the Miami Heat in that game. So Dennis Jenkins was inserted once again into the starting lineup next to Cade in the backcourt. And obviously the usual starters, it's our Thompson, it's small forward Tobias Harris at power forward, and Jalen Duren at center. Very early on in this game, Sarr was active. He was diving for loose balls. He was playing very physical, very aggressive, getting to the basket, cutting to the basket. And I was like, cool, we're getting more aggressive Asart Thompson, but that really didn't last throughout the game. I don't really know if that was by design or what, but I'd like to see more aggressive Asart Thompson from here on out, because I think when he does play aggressive and he's in attack mode, I think he's very difficult to deal with. Giannis slipped on an appeared wet spot. He left the game with the left calf strain, and I think like a lot of people on NBA Twitter thought that he faked the injury, because we all got the Shams notification today that, he has asked for a trade out of Milwaukee. He plays like 3 minutes and he has a fall and he did hurt his right calf. Hopefully it's not serious, because with those right calf strains, those do usually lead to Achilles tear. So hopefully it's just a calf strain, nothing serious. Hopefully Giannis is all right. He is really fun to watch. Just me not even being a Pistons fan, just like an NBA fan for a second, just appreciating Giannis. But he left. Bucks went scoreless for 5 minutes, and I really thought after Giannis left the game, the Pistons were going to be able to get out to a lead. They were up 30-12, believe it or not, had an 18-point lead, but Milwaukee started heating up towards the end of the first quarter. AJ Green and Michael Porter Jr. hit back-to-back threes, so that once 18-point lead dwindled down to only a 9-point lead to end the first quarter. Pistons were up 30-21. Going into the second quarter, Jalen Duren had 6 straight points of just getting the Pistons back and padding that lead. I will say, though, this is something that I've noticed back-to-back games. Atlanta has done it. Milwaukee has done it. Teams are starting to play zone defense on the Pistons. And the reason why you play zone is to take away driving opportunities, take away paint touches. And we all know that the Detroit Pistons like to score in the paint. They live in the paint. This season, they are not a good three-point shooting team. And when you're without your best three-point shooter in Duncan Robinson, it was very apparent. I felt like the Bucks defensively did a very good job of taking away the paint, and I think that's why they were able to scrap back into this game. The Pistons obviously still had a lead after 2 quarters. It was 52-49. Coming out of halftime, the Bucks got their first lead, 56-55, and it was kind of a back and forth game. Tobias hit back-to-back threes in this one, and I felt like this was the tipping point of the game. So before Isaiah Stewart did get ejected, because he did get ejected tonight, if you guys didn't watch, Cade Cunningham throws an outlet pass. Stu's running the lane very hard and gets the ball, misses a layup, but does get shoved and kind of gets smacked in the back of the head. No call. He was very pissed off about it. And next play down, he's not even focused on what set they're about to run. He goes straight to the referee, lets him know that he missed the call. He gets a technical foul. So Stu gets his first tech in the third quarter. About three plays later, Cade finds Stu in the paint. He goes up to attempt a shot, and he gets smacked in the face again, this time by Bobby Portis. And Bobby Portis and him kind of get into a little altercation. Nothing was physical about this altercation. It was just a bunch of shoving, and Stu basically saying, "I'll beat your ass" type of shit. He gets ejected for this. And obviously, I expected him to get ejected. I expected both players to get double technicals. That's exactly what happened. But I felt like that was the tipping point of this game, because what happened was Bobby Portis, up to that point, was a non-factor in this game. He started hitting his shot, scored his first points in the third quarter. Hit some really timely threes for the Milwaukee Bucks. Him and Kyle Kuzma kind of came alive in the third. But what I think really helped the Pistons kind of, stay in this game was Javonte Green in his third quarter. He hit three big three-pointers in this and kept the Pistons afloat. Going into the fourth quarter, Paul Reed had to step up, and he did, made the most of his minutes. Even though we did lose this game, it's always good to see Paul Reed get minutes. AJ Green, man, that kid, like every time I watch the Bucks, I'm looking for AJ Green because I know he's a 3-point specialist. I know he's a sniper, and doesn't matter if you leave him open. Doesn't matter if he's got a hand in his face. He just hits the most timely threes. I swear, every time he plays us. But the turnovers in this one, you guys, the Pistons had 9 turnovers in the fourth. 9. Turnovers are still an issue with this team. Now, you look at the box score, they only had, I believe, 15 or 16 tonight, right? But that's still a lot, and you had 9 of them in the fourth. You have to take better care of the basketball, and you can credit Milwaukee's defense. You can credit their defense on Cade, Kevin Porter Jr., AJ Green, Kyle Kuzma. They threw a lot of bodies at Cade Cunningham tonight. Jalen Duren fouled out of this one. I don't even know what he was trying to do with that drive with Ryan Rollins. Pistons try to tie this game. Cade takes a 3, and it was extremely short. Cade did not have his best shooting night. And the Pistons lose this one. They lose this one 113-109 was the final score in this one. It just gets to a point where you're going to lose basketball games if you don't take care of the basketball. And when you're playing against a zone defense, the only way to be effective against zone is move the ball and shoot over it. And the Pistons did not do a good job of shooting over it. They didn't move the ball, I think, as much as they should have to kind of negate the zone. But you've seen back-to-back teams display this. It would not surprise me if Portland tries this. Portland does have better defenders on their roster. Kamara, Denny Avdias is playing out of his damn mind. Portland's going to be a very big challenge at home this Friday. And then you have to play the Bucks again on Saturday on a back-to-back at home. But a big reason why they lost this game is just, not executing over the zone that the Milwaukee Bucks threw at the Pistons. And the turnovers again. The turnovers has been kind of a talking point. I feel like the past 4 games or so, like I thought they did a really good job, the first couple of games of the season of, taking care of the basketball, and turnovers weren't really a talking point, but you got to take better care of the basketball. I want to get into the box score tonight because I know you guys do appreciate this part of the podcast. So Tobias Harris in 29 minutes tonight had a bounce back game. If you guys remember, he had a really poor shooting night last game against the Hawks. He had 20 points, shot 50% from the field, 5 out of 8 from 3, 50% from the free throw line, shot 1 out of 2, 5 rebounds, and was a -5 in this one. Jalen Duren, 26 minutes. He had 8 points in this one, 4 out of 7 from the field. Had 1 free throw attempt, didn't make it. 6 rebounds, 3 assists. He was a +18 in this one. They just did a really good job of just negating his paint touches with the zone tonight. That's why he had only 8 points. Cade Cunningham, 35 minutes tonight, 17 points, shot 5 out of 15 from the field, 1 out of 7 from 3, perfect from the free throw line, 6 out of 6, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, Only two turnovers for Cade. Had a much better game of taking care of the basketball, but collectively as a unit, this team just didn't do a good job of taking care of the basketball. He was a plus minus. I had 7 in this one, so he's a plus 7 in the plus minus. Asar Thompson in this one, 26 minutes played, 10 points, 3 out of 7 from the field, 4 out of 6 from the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 turnovers, 2 steals. He was a plus 21 in this one. I really liked his activity. I really liked his act in this one. Would like to see him play a little bit more minutes. Like to see him closer to the 30-minute a game mark. But, rotations. I get JB wants more offense out there. But I thought, he had a pretty solid game overall. Dennis Jenkins in this one played 24 minutes, had 7 points, 2 out of 8 from the field, 1 out of 5 from 3, perfect from the free throw line, had 2 assists, 2 turnovers, and was a +1. Not his best shooting night again. The Hawks game, he had a tough shooting night. This game, he had a tough shooting night as well. Still very high on the kid. Being inserted in the starting lineup, it was probably a very big adjustment. I still think that there is room for him in the rotation, especially as a backup guard leading the second unit, because I feel like he does a really good job with that unit. And there's not as much pressure on him to be inserted into the starting lineup. Obviously, not having Duncan does hurt. Paul Reed in this one, 7 minutes played, had 9 points, was very effective in his minutes tonight. 4 out of 5 from the field, 1 out of 2 from 3, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block, 2 turnovers. Isaiah Stewart only in 18 minutes because he did get ejected, had 5 points, 2 out of 3 from the field, 1 for 1 from 3, had a corner 3 very early on in the first half, 4 rebounds and 2 blocks in this one. Ron Holland, 17 minutes tonight, had 5 points. Really rough shooting night for him. 2 out of 10 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3, made 1 free throw, 2 rebounds, 1 steal, was a -17 off the bench for the Pistons. Javonte Green in 16 minutes, 9 points, 3 out of 6 from the field, 2 out of 4 from 3, 1 for 1 from the free throw line, -4 off the bench in his 16 minutes. Karis LeVert, 23 minutes, 4 points, 1 out of 10 from the field, 1 out of 8 from 3, 1 out of 2 from the free throw line. He just had a miserable shooting night. He was a -24, led the entire team in negative plus minus. If he makes even 1 or 2 of those shots, the Pistons probably win this game. Jaden Ivey almost played 20 minutes tonight, so maybe he's getting closer to 20 minutes a game on his minute restriction. Had a pretty solid game if you do want to take a silver lining out of this one. 15 points, 50% from the field, 2 out of 5 from 3, perfect from the free throw line, 3 out of 3, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 turnovers, 1 block. So good to see JI kind of, get his minutes. And Chaz Lanier obviously didn't play, which I am going to go on a rant about that in a little bit. So with the team stats, I'm just going to put it on the screen for you guys. One thing I highlighted was the turnovers. Pistons had 15, Bucks had 16. 9 of those turnovers came in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, they were doing a pretty good job of taking care of the basketball, but you really have to credit the Milwaukee Bucks defense, and they only missed 1 free throw. They shot 95% from the field. Pistons shot 79% from the field on their free throw attempts. 14 out of 43 from 3, 33%. Bucks were 30% respectively. So, I mean, the Bucks weren't really shooting great from 3, but when they did hit threes, they were just timely threes. They did outscore the Detroit Pistons in the paint, 46-40. And I think that's what you're kind of seeing with this zone defense is it really takes away what the Pistons are really good at in terms of just packing the paint and scoring in the paint and dominating it. But I do want to get into some comments and questions. This is an open forum for you guys. So any questions, comments, concerns, overall thoughts with today's game, or just in general with the Detroit Pistons this season, I want you to drop them down below. We're going to take a quick break, take a drink of water, and have a chill rest of the podcast. We will be right back, you guys. Okay, you guys, we are back. This is the part of the podcast where we open up the show, open forum, Q&A, just kind of answering your guys' questions. But I did say I wanted to talk about Chaz Lanier, and this is my little rant with Chaz Lanier. I didn't get to do it before the commercial break. I honestly think, like, if you're going to see more zone defense, which I think more teams are going to implement because they know that you're not a good three-point shooting team. They rank, you know, almost dead last in attempts. I think they're 28th in attempts. They're around 20 or 21 ranked in the NBA in just three-point makes. Chaz Lanier, we know when we drafted him, he was a shooter. I mean, that was the one thing that a lot of teams in the NBA draft valued with him was his three-point shooting and his ability to make three-point shots on high volume. It gets to a point where we know Karis LeVert, we know what he is, we know isolations, getting to the basket, mid-range, can hit the occasional three. We know all that, right? But it gets to a point when you're not making threes and you're not executing the zone defense. You have a guy on your roster. Granted, he's a rookie. I get he's a rookie. I'm not saying play Chaz Lanier 25 minutes. I'm not saying that, but at least throw him in. See if you can get a different look. See if you can get a different dynamic with him on the court and shooting over that zone, because that's how you do beat a zone defense, is shooting over it and passing the ball and creating mismatches with your ball movement. I think if teams are going to continue to play zone, you have to give Chaz Lanier more minutes. Dennis Jenkins didn't have the best shooting night. That's okay. Karis LeVert, 1 out of 10 from the field, and he's played over 20 minutes. Like, you have to look for different players on your roster if they're not bringing it. And I really felt like Chaz at least deserves a good 8 to 10 minutes tonight, in my personal opinion. I know that's easier said than done. I'm not a coach, but when you're without your best shooter right now with a left ankle sprain and Duncan Robinson, and you have a three-point shooter on your bench and he gets no playing time, that's not ideal for me as a fan. I think you have to do a better job of understanding if a guy doesn't have it that night, look on your bench for someone that I think can help you in that department. And I get it. It's a little rant. He's a rookie. I'm very high on Chaz Lanier. I think he's going to be a very good pro, but I mean, he hasn't really got a whole lot of playing time, since Jaden Ivey has come back. And I get that the shooting guard room is extremely, extremely stacked, and it's easier said than done, but just a little frustrating, really frustrating. But let's get into this Q&A. Piston Fan 11 gets the first one. He does have a comment about the turnovers. So it says too many turnovers, like early last year Pistons. Talking to the Kings about what Schroeder to the Pistons for LeVert or trade exception. We need someone like him to cut the turnovers to get Cade some rest. So kind of like a two-part comment from Piston Fan 11. Let's answer kind of the first one. Too many turnovers like early last year. I agree. Last year, this team turned the ball over at an extremely high rate, and it was very frustrating. This year, they started turning the ball over, but they kind of cleaned it up, and then they're kind of getting back into the old bad habits of just making sloppy passes, not being able to execute out of the half court. And I think if they watched the film and they could have that play back, they would probably try to execute it differently, right? It gets to a point where you have to know when a team is playing zone defense, and you have to know to move the ball, pass the ball, and try to find a mismatch, because you can either just go into the middle of it and shoot over the top of it, which I know Cade tried to do tonight. He wasn't really effective in that, only shot 5 out of 15 from the field. But, I think they will definitely look to improve on how to attack a zone defense for the rest of the season, because I feel like a lot of teams are going to try to implement that against the Pistons. Now, your second part of your question, Piston Fan 11. Now, I did see this. A guy named Bruce on Twitter had said that he heard that the Pistons and Kings were in the, trade talks, trade negotiations, possibly. The one thing I will talk about Schroeder is Dennis Schroeder technically cannot be traded back to the Detroit Pistons because of the CBA, the new CBA deal, right? The only way you could actually get Dennis Schroeder back on the Pistons is if Sacramento traded him to a team and then the Pistons traded with his new team. Dennis Schroeder cannot be traded to the Pistons because if you guys remember, he was part of a sign-in trade, and the Pistons did get a TPE, a trade exception, a $14 million trade exception that they can use at this deadline, or they could use possibly this summer during free agency, right? So that's something I did want to kind of touch on with the Dennis Schroeder thing. Now, if they are talking to the Kings, I don't really know what players you're looking at. Maybe a Keon Ellis, who's a good 3-and-D guard. Maybe it's Malik Monk. There was a little bit of chatter during the summer about Malik Monk and the Detroit Pistons. I don't know if that's something that the Pistons are looking at. But LeVert would probably have to be involved if you're looking at a Malik Monk. You'd have to attach one of your bigger salaries and maybe use a little bit of your trade exception to get him on the roster to make it work financially. But we have to wait and see. These next 2 months are going to be very, very fascinating to see what the Pistons do. I do think, though, looking at this team, their needs this year is three-point shooting. They need more three-point shooting, and they need more playmakers, in my personal opinion. Anytime Cade goes to the bench, it seems like this team completely falls apart offensively. The flow is just, not the same. So I think when you're looking at the trading deadline, how to improve this team marginally, I think you're looking at three-point shooting and you're looking at possibly playmaking, and Malik Monk fits both of those. He fits both of those things that the Pistons, I think, need help with, but I don't really know if he is for sale. I know the Kings really wanted Jonathan Kuminga, and I think they were trying to float Malik Monk and some stuff, and Devin Carter for Jonathan Kuminga. Obviously, the Warriors weren't biting on any type of trade offers, but it'll be interesting, you guys, over these next 2 months. Marquez has a comment about turnovers. He says, turnovers in a season, you'll have games that don't go your way. However, 1 is an accident, 2 is a trend, 3 is a problem. The Pistons must get their turnover situation straightened out. I agree. We touched on it in every post-game show. I said that they're trending in a direction that I don't think they want to be trending in. They were doing a very good job of having, 10 to 12 turnover nights. Tonight was 15. I think last week they had a 24 turnover game, 19 turnover game. They just have to do a better job of taking care of the basketball because turnovers can come back to bite you in the ass. And tonight they did, especially in the fourth quarter. They didn't do a really good job of taking care of the basketball. But I agree with you. Like, they have to do a better job of taking care of it and, minimizing the mistakes that they do make in these quarters or in these games. Got a comment from Rocky. Shout out to him. Honestly, that's what they get. Learn how to put teams away early and often, and then you wouldn't find yourself walking off the court. Agreed. Agreed, Rocky. You're up 30-12 very early on. I thought when they were up 18, they were going to continue to execute. And, at first the Bucks weren't playing zone. Then they started doing it, midway through the second. And I thought the third quarter was the tipping point. The momentum really shifted. Once Isaiah Stewart did get ejected, kind of lit a fire under Bobby Portis's ass. And, he started making shots. And it really just kind of, turned the game. I felt like the Pistons were trying to get up an uphill battle, trying to compete with the Bucks. And a team without Giannis, they're one of the worst teams just from a offensive rating standpoint. When Giannis doesn't play, he played a total of 3 minutes tonight, so he was a non-factor. He left very early on in this first quarter, so this was a game where you should have won the game, but the Bucks knew that if they wanted to win this game, they had to take away the paint, and that's exactly what they did. And they knew that Duncan was out, and Pistons have shown that they are not a very good perimeter shooting team this season. Even though, guys are shooting over 35% this year, they're still not making a whole lot of threes. Red Baron has a comment about B-Ball Paul. More B-Ball Paul, please. Ideally, I would love to see Reed play as our backup center. I think, I know this has been a talking point with a lot of Pistons fans with the power forward. And Tobias is playing power forward right now. I think a lot of fans wanted to see a Jalen Duren Isaiah Stewart as your 4 and 5. I wouldn't hate it. I think it works. I just don't know, like, if it's an everyday lineup. I think eventually they do want it to be an everyday lineup, but the way Duren was playing tonight defensively, it seemed like a game where he just wasn't really focused and locked in. I mean, Jericho Sims had so many bunnies at the basket tonight. It was just like, man, like Duren's not even really paying attention to his man or on the weak side. Like so many times the Bucks had just really easy bunnies at the basket tonight. But I love seeing Paul Reed out there. Ideally he's your third string center right now, but I mean he can play backup in a pinch. We've seen him start this season, have monster games, have career highs with the Pistons, but it's kind of a weird dynamic right now with Isaiah Stewart, Paul Reed, and Jalen Duren. We've seen Stewart play the 4, and he's had big games against the Grizzlies where he had to play the 4 because Tobias was hurt and really step up offensively. But maybe that's your 4-5 of the future, and Tobias comes off the bench as kind of like a backup power forward or a 6-man off your bench. I wouldn't hate it. Maybe the Pistons bring him back this summer on a lower deal. I don't think he's going to sign again for $26 million. Maybe he signs closer to like a mid-level and kind of comes off your bench, kind of has like a Al Horford role like he had in Boston where he comes off the bench and he's a vet and he gives you good minutes. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. And I think a lot of people have your same opinions, Red Baron, of having Paul Reed off your bench and inserting Isaiah Stewart at the 4 and Duren at the 5. But appreciate the question, man. I really do. So we have a comment from Kakashi, and he says, I low-key feel like this was the game where Jazz genuinely deserved playing time. 3-point shooting was required, and he would have helped without being a defensive liability. Exactly what I was saying earlier. That's why I kind of had a rant. Like, if you're going to play against his own defense, you need shooters, and he's literally the only shooter that didn't play tonight. He's the only shooter on this team that I feel like maybe he makes 2 threes tonight and you only lost 113 to 109 and maybe you win this game by 1, right? I just feel right now that, Karras is JB's guy. I'm not shitting on Karras. I think he's a good player. He just had a really bad night tonight. I mean, he's had nights where he hasn't shot the ball particularly well. And I know he is coming off a knee injury and ankle sprains and shoulder injuries, but I think if the guy is like 1 for 7 into the 4th, I'm not giving him more playing time. Maybe I'm looking to play somebody else. But hey, man, that's just me. That's my opinion. Do have a question about a possible trade. And this comes from RVK117. Says, how would I feel about getting Michael Porter Jr. for Tobias Harris, or Duncan, plus 3 seconds, including Dallas's second, which is projected high? We've talked about Michael Porter Jr. on this podcast before, and I think when you're talking about like the scoring punch that he would give the Pistons, I think that's what they're kind of looking for. They're looking for a guy that can help Cade Cunningham in games and kind of be that number 2 option. The only thing with Michael Porter Jr. that I think might kind of scare this organization and this front office away is 2 things. I think the first thing is the defense. The defense is not great. Not saying he's a traffic cone, but I think when you kind of look at the identity of this team, they're looking for someone that's going to be just a dog defensively. And that's not really Michael Porter Jr., right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is the contract. The contract is a little bit pricey. And I do think if the Brooklyn Nets are going to trade a Michael Porter Jr., I think in terms of like the matching the salaries, you mentioned Tobias, Karras, and Duncan. They're all on bigger deals. Tobias is on the biggest deal out of all the players you mentioned. So it does make sense from a financial standpoint to include these guys. But they're probably going to ask for a first, maybe more if they can get more. I don't really think you're going to be able to get away with throwing some seconds, even though the Pistons do have quite a bit of second-round picks. You would probably have to throw a first-round pick in there. And I'm under the opinion if I am going to be trading a future first, I'd like it to be for a guy that can contribute on both ends of the court. And I know that's easier said than done. Those guys don't grow on trees. They can score at all three levels like a Michael Porter Jr. and play defense. They just don't. I do like his scoring. I don't know if I could live with his defense night in and night out. But he's a good player. He's a very good player, and he's been lighting it up for Brooklyn this year. Motor City has a comment about Jaden Ivey, talking about he should have been out there at the end for a chance to take a three along with Harris. It should have been one of them two or Green taking the three. Cade was off all night, so was LeVert. Yeah, I mean, that just kind of comes to a preference, I guess, with the coaching. He threw Dennis Jenkins out there, and I can get it from a standpoint of Dennis hit that buzzer beater against the Washington Wizards. He hit a big-time clutch shot against the Philadelphia 76ers at the buzzer. So I could understand J.B. Bickerstaff's thinking of throwing him out there tonight. I really can. But I think it just gets to a point where, Ivy's going to be lifted from his minute restriction, and I think it will kind of get into the way of either Karas's minutes or Danis's minutes. If I had to guess, it's probably going to get into the way of Danis's minutes just because that's a vet that JB has known for quite some time, and he's going to roll with this guy. Someone had made the joke, and I chuckled, and I probably shouldn't, saying that we got our Corey Joseph. If you guys remember, when Corey Joseph was here, he would get a crap load of minutes because he was a vet. Someone saying JB found his Corey Joseph and Karis LeVert, which I laughed at. I don't really think it's true, but it made me chuckle for sure. I want to get into a couple more comments and questions with you guys. Got one from Larry saying, why wasn't Ivy on the floor rather than LeVert? I think the only thing I could probably think of is just minute restriction. I don't know if the medical staff has JB kind of following a regimen where he's playing 15 minutes, played 19 minutes a night. Maybe he's getting close to playing 20 minutes and 25 and 30. I think they're very, very careful and very precautious with Jaden Ivey. If I did have to make an assumption and a guess, that's probably it. But yeah, I mean, honestly, LeVert just didn't have it tonight, just from a scoring standpoint. Like defensively, he was trying. He had a block on Ryan Rollins really late in the fourth quarter. It's just he wasn't hitting his shots tonight. I think he hit like 1-3, if I do remember correctly. Case Crack says the fact that this team can't play if Duncan Robinson isn't available says something. Yeah, it says to the three-point shooting that this team doesn't have this year. Last year, you didn't really have to have those issues because Tim Hardaway was going to shoot a shitload of threes. Made close to 40% of them. Malik Beasley was a very high volume three-point shooter. So you didn't really worry about your three-point shooting last season. This season, Duncan has been hurt the past two games. He's your number one three-point shooting option. He's shooting around like 8-9 a game, it seems like. But, LeVert is not that three-point shooter. He's more of a mid-range, getting to the basket type of player. So the fit kind of is a little clunky, especially with the second unit with him and Jaden Ivey on the floor. I just don't think both of them on the floor together makes a whole lot of sense stylistically because they both like getting to the same spots. And you don't have as much firepower off your bench as you did last year with the Malik. And we understand he's still under investigation. He can't sign with the team. But I think this deadline, you're probably going to see Trajan trade for a three-point shooter. I really do. I talked about some possible three-point shooters on the podcast with Zarek over the weekend. If you guys want to listen to that, we kind of landscaped of some possible three-point shooters that the Pistons could target in the trade market. But it wouldn't surprise me if you see that this deadline with the Pistons looking to add more perimeter shooting, secondary option playmaking, because I think that's what they're lacking right now. They're still 17-5. The sky's not falling. We're still very positive over here. But, nights like tonight, you just got to take better care of the basketball and, execute in your half-court sets and just move the ball more when you see opposing teams play zone defenses. I am going to wrap up this podcast, though, you guys. We'll see you on Friday and Saturday, possibly Sunday. Still confirming whether or not we will have a long-form podcast this weekend. But I appreciate all you guys watching the podcast for the last 35 minutes or so. If you could, on the way out, hit the like button. It does help out the YouTube channel quite a bit. And also, if you're not subscribed, feel free to subscribe if you're a Detroit Piston fan and you like Detroit Pistons content year-round. You guys know we do a podcast 365 every week. During the season, we have multiple podcasts because we like doing these post-game podcasts and some on the weekend for you. But appreciate all of you guys watching tonight. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night, and I'll talk to you guys later this week. And as always, go Pistons. Peace.